And welcome back once again to Underwhelming Barrage. We're on episode number 12. And with me this week for our 12th episode is, of course, Tyler, Ian, and CJ. And back after his 10th, you won on episode 10, right, Mickey?
Yep,
Yes.
I
Back
did.
from the 10th episode, here back again for the 12th is Mickey D from the Botha Network. How's it going, Mickey?
Doing well. Happy to be here. Always a good time. Get to be on with Ian as well this time so we can truly fight it out.
Yeah, I feel like every time you're on, you just go, and win a PQ.
Yep. I get one underwhelming barrage appearance for every PQ I win going forward. I will sign that contract right now.
So that means if you play in one this weekend, you're probably gonna win because you're on the episode, right?
True, true. More reason to travel this weekend. Don't give me any more excuses. I'm already close.
Yeah. CJ, you have a PQ this weekend as well, right?
Yeah, I do. Yep, in beautiful Connecticut on Saturday.
Beautiful
So
Connecticut.
beautiful Connecticut.
And
So
you're
well, yeah.
gone with what Mike and Alex, and I think Justin's gone too, right?
Yep, yeah. I think that's the whole crew. A lot of people skipping out on it, but we'll represent. See how
It's
it
gonna be a
goes.
lot there.
Yeah. And then Tyler, you will also be at this PQ in beautiful Connecticut, right?
Indeed. I got a couple from McClunky going as well, you know. Of course Tim's gonna be streaming it, and then the rest of us will be going as well.
Yeah, do you want to tease what you're playing so everyone can counter you, or you want to keep it on the DL?
Go ahead, you know. I'm playing the super fringe, super basic,
Mhm.
Kylo Tarkentown, Some like has-beens made the deck like a couple weeks back. I have to play it one time because I want to like play the combo deck before it becomes obsolete during set six. If I
Yeah.
don't do it now, whenever will I do it?
Well, there you go, CJ. Pack your, you know, your restocks and parliamentarians.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Will do.
then
I
speaking
don't
of,
think me and Tyler have never played in a tournament, so I
oh,
don't. I
really?
don't know. Yeah, no.
No, yeah, I
No,
don't think so.
that's crazy. So speaking of
Yeah.
Kylo, we have, of course, Ian back with us. Ian, do you have any PQs this weekend or anything coming up on the
I
horizon?
am. I'm
Really?
going to beautiful Memphis, Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee. Now they can
Yes.
read a little, gooder there than
A little
Alabama.
gooder, yeah. Uh, I have a good track record in Tennessee.
Nice.
Last set I went to Tennessee, and I think it was at the same store in Memphis, and I won that with Vader. So gonna try to run it back, defend the PQ championship.
Nice.
Uh,
What are you gonna run?
I'm just running Kylo again, man.
Interesting.
I'm
Interesting. So
shocked.
force throw decks. Huh.
Yeah,
But
force
I thought
throw
I
or
thought
Nika.
but I thought the meta was open. You can play whatever you want. You could play like Akbar or
I've heard this
Thrawn,
Boba Datavolt deck's all right, and it doesn't play
Boba.
force throw.
Yeah, there's a lot of
That's
things you
probably
can play.
the only. Well, there's probably two decks right now that are actually like real decks and don't play Force Throw, and that's basically Sabine and Boba, right? I mean,
I think
everything
you're
else
being
is.
generous by calling them real decks.
Yeah, you're being very generous, and
Well,
I love Sabine.
we'll talk about that here for our second topic. And, I have some thoughts myself, but since this is a good segue into PQs, since we missed last week, we can kind of talk about the last 2 weeks of data here. So looking at week 5, which was 2 weeks ago, it was kind of a mixed bag. We had two Quinlans, two Bobas, two Sabine, two Han, two Cad. I mean, it was kind of like, we're starting to see the Talzins, the random decks that are maybe a little overhyped kind of fall off a little bit. So, I know that CJ likes to say that people just play what they want at PQs. I think there's a ton of truth, to that. But I think now people are kind of realizing that maybe the meta isn't as open as they think, it is. And the decks that are winning are the more, established decks, force throw decks, your, aggro Sabine, Cad Bane, like your Tarkentown ping decks. They're really starting to creep towards the top. So I mean, that's week 5, and if you compare that, week over week with week 6, it's largely the same thing, but you do still have your, quote unquote outliers with like Yoda and Anakin, but those are like essentially just Han decks, right? I mean, just like a different take on them. And then of course your Boba, your Sabine, your Han. So we're really starting to see like this meta really form. Sabine won 3 PQs in week 6. I think that that's kind of just like a play on these people thinking they can play whatever they want, and then they forget that Sabine exists, and it's like, oh wait,
Well,
Sabine
also,
beats all these decks. Good.
also if people move off of Han and they start playing the variants that are better into some of the other matchups are way worse than a Sabine, like Anakin and Yoda, right? I'd rather be on Han Blue than either of those ones into Sabine, like 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that definitely can shift it a little bit for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have any thoughts on like this last few weeks of results? Are there any surprises there for you, or is it kind of what you expected?
No, it's like I don't want to be a broken record. I know people think I'm complaining, but I'm really not. Like, and I don't want this to come across as like arrogant or anything, but the people that were testing for Worlds, honestly, I think we're just so many games ahead over the general meta. Like honestly, just like games ahead. So like I think what we're seeing, what we saw in the PQ is like, yeah, people took the Worlds results and then they took their own testing. Maybe they play once a week, at their locals, or maybe they're testing on Petra every once in a while. And now we're starting to see people get into those hundreds and thousands of games that the teams were at, and they're coming at all the same conclusions, right? And I think that's fine. That's a healthy way for the game, but it is just interesting. Unlike a game like Magic or some of the other games that might have a higher top end as far as prizing, and so a more committed community and digital clients that are like real, right?
Yeah.
Those tend to solve the meta much faster, and everyone catches up much quicker. I think for us, it's just like the top end had it solved, had it figured out. Then some people might have played what they wanted to in that spot, but a lot of people kind of knew what the meta was, and then the general population just catching up, which is absolutely fine. But I think we're just seeing it all play out in actual data now.
Yeah. Tyler, do you have any thoughts on the last few weeks?
The meta is definitely forming. It's definitely more of a play Force Throw, play Boba Data Vault, or play the random Spice of the Week. Like going from week 5, you had the Cad Bane, mostly Weenie's deck. That was showing up a lot in the top 8. It didn't jump up to where Quinlan Han are sitting with like 15, 16 top 8s, but respectable 8 top 8s. And then week 6, you had Anakin pop up. So the basis line is at least showing in the meta. We're going to see Force Throw a bunch. Going into the sectors and regionals, we should expect to see a majority, probably like 4 to 5 of the top 8. I would not be surprised if it's a Force Throw deck. I can see all 8 of them being Force Throw. I'll be a little reserved and just view on the meta and show like 4 or 5 Force Throw. We'll see like hopefully one maybe 2 Boba Data Vault, and then probably some Flavor of the Week is going to fill up the rest of it. I think the big question taking from those meta and into sectors, is Boba Data Vault actually a thing? Is it not just the fun, quirky aggro deck that everyone's playing that's just giving the free wins into top indie sectors or the PQs? And when we get to sectors, it's just going to be completely non-existent, because it's the only real outlier to the other 5 meta decks that are just playing Force Throw and just doing mid-range force battles.
Yeah, and I'll stop you there because that's the next topic. Actually, we'll talk about some of that. So save some thoughts for that. Ian, what do you think about the last few weeks? Any surprises?
I mean, the only surprise that I really have is that people really just like playing Boba Data Vault. I think that deck is terrible. I don't really understand why people are playing it in a Force Throw meta. I think it's bad against Force Throw. Like, it plays a bunch of bombs. Your Force Throws, you can just target them most of the time, and it's gonna do damage, like, a lot. Like, yeah, you can obviously when it's just makes sense to throw yourself, you're gonna do that. But like, I don't know. To me, it seems so crazy that people are so hype on this deck. I think, and I don't mean to demean anybody who plays this deck. I think it's just because it's a very simple deck to play. Like, it's just I play 1 card a turn, I pilot my ship, I hit your base, I burn you out. Like, that's
Well,
a
and
very simple game plan.
and don't forget, Ian, you're also, when you're burning them out, you're telling your opponent you burn yourself out. You figure it out. So like, not only are you like, it's
Right.
simple that, but you're also letting your opponent mess up as
Hey,
well.
sometimes you have a Devastator, all right? And you get
Yeah,
the
okay.
yeah.
How many games do you
So,
lose when you
yeah.
cast a Devastator, though? But
right. No, so like, I mean, obviously there's powerful cards in the deck, and like you get to add up a lot of damage, and you get sometimes you just do your thing, and they don't have an answer to your Boba Flip.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a similar thing that what Vader was doing last set. Vader was just doing it a little bit differently because there were so many space decks last set with like Han and things like that, where like the Vader deck became the whole point of that deck was I'm going to fight into these other space decks better because I'm going to have so many units and I'm going to go wide against them. Where this deck goes tall and it the game plan of like I'm gonna play one thing a turn, I'm gonna flip my leader, hopefully kill a thing, and then kill you with 2 attacks. Like that shouldn't work.
Yeah.
I think it really shouldn't. Like people should just be playing more Rivals Falls or more Upgrade Hate or whatever. Like it's so easy to hate this deck out,
Well,
and
well,
it just
something
seems
I've
like people aren't
seen
doing it.
like with this Boba deck, because it's like everywhere around me, and when I see people playing it and playing against it, it's like when they take a large chunk of damage, like 2 or 3 indirect damage, they kind of freeze up and don't know what to do, right? Like they kind of either throw it on a unit or throw it on their base and just hope it works out. And so it's like I think the more that you play, you know, like against it, you realize that if you just put damage like on your units, that's typically good enough. Like
Yeah,
it doesn't
well,
really matter.
if you just kill the thing that they play, the one card that they play
Exactly.
every
Yeah.
turn, they lose the game.
Yeah.
Like it is so soft against Power the Dark Side plus Force Throw.
Yeah, it's like they're so averse to put damage on their units that they, start putting it all on their base, and then like before you know it, your damage has 18-20 damage on it, and then they kill you with anything.
Yeah, then
But
you're just in check the rest of the game.
right, so if you just kill their one thing a turn and put the damage on your units, I mean, like even killing one of your own units, sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Just let it happen.
It's almost even simpler than that. Just play Owen.
Yeah, well,
Like,
yeah. I mean,
like,
Han
there's
has
just like
tons
Kira
of
or Grogu
Yeah,
or
or
anything.
Or you
Grogu.
play Bogdo
Itinerant
without
Warrior.
damage on
Yeah,
it.
Itinerant
right.
Warrior is nasty.
Now you get to turn your Bogdo on
Shielded
for
units
free.
are very good. Just
Yeah.
things like that. Mickey, you won a PQ with Quinlan. What do you think? I mean, did you see any surprises anywhere, or is it kind of what you expected?
Mostly expected. My local area has like at least I'm located in Iowa, but like the Minnesota people seem to be high on space aggro. So I saw some Han Fort Tarkenton, I saw some Poe, but like those are known forces. There's nothing like shock, no like Avar Chris deck coming out of nowhere. And then my local area is a little usually more blue green villain heavy, so there was some more Kira than you might expect, but like nothing out of the ordinary. Um, yeah, I think the past couple weeks we've really sort of seen a meta settle, and then we've seen like the first step of the meta wheel turning a little bit because through the first couple weeks we kind of weeded out the thousands, we weeded out like the items, you don't see those really anymore. All those kind of like the Vaders, you don't really see Vader anymore. And then we had a solidified like Han, Boba somehow, and Quinlan, and then we saw some people like with all these Sabines winning, I think they're making a meta call of like, I'm going to gear my deck to beat Boba and Quinlan. And if I run into Hantu, well, tough luck. I got a rough go of it. And there's some tech you can put in Sabine for the Hantu matchup, but I don't think there's ever a way you can make it favorable. And then we've also seen a shift in the other direction where like some of these Han players are going towards Anakin and Yoda to get an edge in the mirror. Because I think generally Hantu's better into the field, but Anakin and Yoda are better into those blue-red force mirrors. And with both of those things happening at the same time, if Han's on the downtrend, Sabine winning more makes sense if the blue-red hero you're running into is Anakin and Yoda.
Yeah.
And so we're sort of seeing that first shift. I don't expect it to be fully representative of what happens at Portland or at like future events. But like it's very slowly happening, but things are sort of shifting. Like I think the Sabine matchup is better for Quinlan than it was in set 4, especially because Sabines usually have turned to Yoda's lightsaber instead of dark saber, and they're like have to worry about turret, which oftentimes means you can just like play your Kiras and kind of blow people out that way. But if they decide to just not respect Hantu, which I think is like, if you're at a PQ, especially on a smaller end, you can say, I will lose to Hantu once in Swiss and hope to dodge it in top 8 and cook everything else. I think that's viable. And I think that's why Sabine, and I haven't dug into the results, but I imagine that's how Sabine has won some of those PQs. So
Yeah, and
we've seen the
it's
wheel turn a little bit.
And Sabine is one of those decks, and it'll always be one of those decks where like it is very very consistent because it's just a bunch
Yeah.
of redundant cards. So, like these other decks aren't as consistent. So if they
Mhm.
stumble, like say Sabine sneaks into a top eight, if a Han player stumbles and plays like they didn't have the right unit on turn one or they didn't have the right thing on turn two, like they can just get blown out. Like that's how Sabine
Mhm.
has just lived forever basically. So, I mean, that's kind of why I think Sabine is just kind of stealing some of these events. It's just like
Yep.
it just takes one person to stumble.
I think right now in the current meta, you have two different avenues you can choose in deck selection, and I think either is reasonable. You can either go for like the consistent deck that's not really going to trip on itself, but isn't super favored into anything. And I think that's Hantu and Quinlan, those style decks. Like Hantu probably has more favorable matchups than Quinlan does, but I think Quinlan has the edge in the Hantu matchup. So
Yeah.
pick your poison there. Or you could pick very specialized decks, like a Palpatine. Like if you just want to eat up the mid range mirrors, you can just play Palp and then hope you
Yeah.
don't run into Sabine. Or you can pick Sabine, hoping to run into everything minus the mid
Well,
range.
that's
And
perfect. That's a perfect segue into the second topic, which is like exactly what you just said. Is that right now, looking at these results from the last, we'll say 3 weeks, is that because the first 3 weeks are kind of like a throwaway. I think it's just like pilot nonsense. You have decks post worlds, people trying new things. These last 3 weeks, we've really seen four main decks pop up. There's Boba Data Vault, there's Sabine ECL, there's Blue Red Hero Force, and Quinlan. Now, do you think going into sectors, and I know that you just kind of touched on this, but do you think going into sectors, Mickey, that
Mhm.
those four decks will be like 60% of the field at sectors? Or do you think that maybe there's room for something like a Thrawn Yellow Force or some random Poe deck to really kind of sneak in there with like 6, 7, like maybe even 8% of the meta share?
Um, I think Pilot Aggro is a good point. Like, I don't consider Boba for aggro really.
Right.
So
Yeah.
like a Poe, Vader's kind of on the fringe, but I consider it more aggro than Boba for sure. A Kazuda, I think that has a reasonable chance of getting maybe 5-ish% of the meta. I think, or at least I want to think, that Boba 4 numbers are going to be down at Portland because I think Portland's going to draw a lot of the. If you're willing to travel and if you're willing to pay to like go to the event, you're usually a more invested player, you're usually keeping up with meta trends more. And I think if you're in that situation, you don't want to just auto lose to Han 2. And if that's the case, I don't think you should be playing Boba. And so I think the Boba numbers are going to be on the downtrend personally. I could
Interesting.
be wrong about that. And I definitely expect to see it there. It's probably going to be a top 5 represented deck
Oh, for
at
sure.
this point. At this point, despite how I might feel about the deck, and I know this opinion is shared with a lot of us here, it's a part of the meta now, and you have to respect it and you have to be ready for it. Um, I think Quinlan numbers. I think Quinlan's probably going to be the most popular deck at Portland, if I had to guess. That are, if you lump Blue Red Force together, that's probably going to be the top deck, like Hantu, Anakin, and Yoda.
That's a good
But
pick.
yeah, individual leader base combo. My bet would be Quinlan Tarkentown. Um,
Yeah, I
I don't.
I think at this point we can lump like Han, Yoda, and like Anakin together just for the
Mhm.
sake of Blue Red Force Hero. Like they're all very
Yeah.
similar, but they're also very different. But
I don't expect much different. Like, there's a world I could see maybe more Talzin creep into the meta, but if you're expecting meta is a lot of Quinlan, I don't love Talzin as a choice.
yeah,
I do think there's going to be some more Kylo players of all variety, like Tarkentown and the green versions, whether it's Datable or ECL. But beyond that, I expect it to mirror PQ top eights and PQ wins. I don't think it's gonna match exactly what your local PQ looks like, but it's gonna match what the
yeah.
performers at PQs look like.
CJ, what do you think? Do you think like those four decks will be like 60ish%, or do you think something else will pop in that kind of disrupt that?
Yeah, no, I think it's gonna be that shell, that blue red shell,
Yeah.
like blue red hero shell is going to be the most popular. Pick your leader there. I think Mickey did a good job of explaining who you would pick and why based on what you want to try to hit or dodge. I do think Han is going to see a pretty big meta share because it is so good into the field. I think it's a good choice. I don't think we're going to see a lot of Talzin just because I think that is the deck that gets hated out by these random pilot decks that aren't Vader, right? Like Han 4s and the Kazudas, like the Poes. I think those are good into that, whereas they're not very good into Han. So I think I don't know if we'll see a lot of that. I don't think we might see a lot of Boba day one. And I'm gonna put it out there, but I don't think we're gonna see a ton Boba day two. And I don't think the top, like if you look at the top teams that are gonna be doing well at the event, I don't think they're gonna have Boba, in their.
I will not let anybody on my team play.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us would either.
No, I mean we all tried it, right? We all panicked when we saw it was doing well. We tried it, and yeah. But I think I think the meta is pretty soft, to be honest with you, and I think it is force throw, and I do think we're gonna see like 7 out of 8 in the top 8 of force
Yeah,
throw decks.
I do want to point out that Ian literally just said that no one on his team will be playing Boba Data Vault. Now, last time he made a claim like that, they all showed up with that deck, or like he was dogging parliamentarian, saying no one would play that card, blah blah blah. Then they all showed up with Kylo. Now he's saying all this stuff. Now they're going
Could
to
be
show up with
psyops.
Boba Data Vault.
Yeah.
We
The
broke it. Y'all are
ultimate
playing the
psyop.
wrong green base. It's straight
Yeah.
manufacturing.
Yeah, the ultimate psyop. Tyler, what do you think? Do you think anything will break through, or do you think it'll be about the same?
I believe the PQ meta share will be pretty close to exact day one. I think day two, at least Portland, is going to just completely flip on the head. I imagine we're going to see almost no Kylos going into day one, and I imagine it's going to be a large percentage share because I imagine the whole Bothan team all bringing it are probably going to make day two because I think people that are good at that deck just do well with it. That's why nobody, besides the people down south, maybe it's also just a down south issue or stuff, but I think the Bothan players
Hey, what are you trying to
good
say,
with it.
man?
I am
A lot of
curious.
your players
I'm
are relegated
I'm curious
down
to
south.
see, like, now that this Kylo deck, everyone knows it exists. Like, everyone is quote unquote ready for it. I'm curious to see if it can put up the same results in like a sector level tournament. So that'll be fun to see if people do play Kylo Tarkentown. Sorry, Tyler. Do you have other things?
It hasn't shown much. Yeah, it hasn't shown
Uh,
much PQ
does it-
results.
Does it play force throw?
That's
It
what I
does.
hear. Yeah.
Interesting.
It's
I think
pretty
that it
cool.
will do just fine.
CJ, you kind of keep harping on it, but I have told the team for the past 6 weeks, any event I enter, I am registering 3 force throws, and that is not changing. Like, it doesn't matter what deck. It's probably going to be Quinlan just because I have so many reps, but anything less than 3 force throws, I think, is incorrect, especially at an event like Portland.
Yeah, I would agree. I haven't played a 4-star deck at a PQ yet because I just keep playing like random jank. But for something
Just
like
join
a
us, Tata.
something
Just
like a
join us.
sector where there's like 500 people, like yes, I would just play a 4-star deck. It might not be meta, but like I would play a 4-star deck. Maybe Ray with force throw. Who knows? Ian, what do you think? Do you think anything is going to be crazy about sectors or about what we
Yeah,
see?
so I think a good metric is like go to Swoo Base, look at all the planetary qualifiers like through all the weeks, and just look at the top 8, and you can kind of see the breakdown. Like, there's a clear top 3 of the most performing, which is Quinlan, Han, and Boba, and then there's a significant cutoff where Kylo and Sabine are tied for 4th at 38, but like Boba in 3rd is 62 top 8s, which is almost double, right? So like those top 3 decks is what I'm going to expect to see as like the top 3 meta share. And it's just over like a quarter. It's like almost 30% of the meta is those 3 decks of the top 8s. So I would assume that 30% of the meta is going to be Quinlan, Han, and Boba. And then like each other deck might have like 5% share. So like if you add in Kylo, Sabine, Cad Bane, I think is like the next one, like 5% for each of those decks, and then it kind of just peters off to like 2-3% of all the rest of the decks. And I think that makes sense given people's perceptions. I know that there's like the aggro like 1-drop Cad Bane deck that kind of had a resurgence the last couple weeks. I don't know if we really talked about that on Underwhelming Barrage yet. I think that deck was literally just made to try to be a Cad deck that can target Quinlan.
Yeah.
Which makes sense if Quinlan is the most played deck, which it has the most top 8s, so you can think of it as the most played deck. I think if you just look at total percentage of the field that's played, Boba is actually the most played deck. But in terms of like the top 8, you're probably going to find a Quinlan in there, right? And you want to win the event because it's a PQ and you don't really get any points unless you win.
Yeah.
So I think that deck's interesting. I don't think it really has staying power personally, but it is a cool little like. I like seeing the meta evolve. Like, I like seeing people trying to innovate and try to, dethrone these top 3 decks. I just think that they're so consistent that, or not Boba. Boba's not consistent, but like Quinlan and Han are so consistent and powerful that they just keep performing well. Boba is kind of just enough people are playing it that it's doing well. Um,
Yeah.
and then the where'd my camera go?
Bye,
Um,
Ian.
Well, we can still hear you, so.
yeah, there we go. Um, sorry. So yeah, I think Kylo and Sabine will be the sneaky decks that I think will have a really good conversion rate to day 2, similar to what
Yeah, Sabine
Tyler was
lately,
saying.
it's just like the last 3 weeks, Sabine has really made a resurgence, which is kind of weird because that's about when Han started making his resurgence post Worlds too, and like they're kind of like in tandem, like you know, really
But
winning
there's
few
other
number of
decks that
events.
had a resurgence too, like Palpatine. If you
Yeah,
look,
yeah,
like the total amount played isn't that much, but its conversion rate to top 8 is one of the highest. It's
pretty
like
insane.
22%,
Yeah,
and then its win percentage is like 5%. Like if you make top 8 with Palp, like you're most likely gonna win because you have a bunch of favorable matchups in the top 8 because it's mostly like Hantu and Bobas, and like you're just great against mid range decks.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, like I don't know, it's interesting. I think the real losers in the quote unquote meta now is just Talzin and Vader are like the 2 biggest losers in my opinion. And then I guess blue green control in general kind of just disappeared. Like I didn't had a really good early performance post Worlds, then kind of fell off, and
I've
I don't really think
seen
Kira's coming back,
I've seen
and
an
no
uptick in
one plays
Kira a
Kylo
little
Green for
bit.
some reason anymore.
yeah. I mean, there was a bunch of Kylo data vault in the first week or two of PQs. I won a week 2 PQ with Kylo Data Vault, and like I felt like it was really good in that meta, and then now it's like kind of fallen off, and I don't know why. Maybe like blue green villain in general is just not well positioned. I mean, I think Mickey was just about to say that we've seen Kira kind of
Hmm.
make a somewhat of a comeback, but it's just not putting up the results. I don't think that the conversion of Kira is great at the moment. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's like really confusing to me too because I felt like going into Worlds, Kira was really bad into Hantu Blue, which is like a reason that our Kira players decided not to play Kira. Um,
yeah, but the Kira decks now are playing things like Ogdo Bogdo, which are like, really good into those kind of decks.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I mean, it's just kind of whatever.
I think blue green villain is maybe one of the more unexplored spaces in the
Yeah.
current meta
Well, it's
because like
tough. Yeah, because you have to beat so many things. It's really
if
tough.
if you're not force throwing, I think you need to be doing some sort of combination with Anakin and Vader. And
Yeah.
I would still rather be force throwing, but I think that's probably the next best thing personally. And so those blue green villain shells,
The,
like, can they find a good heroic card for Anakin? If
Yeah.
not, do
well,
they just
the
play it
the
otherwise?
the tough part with those is yes, like that is very powerful, but like you need like that's your whole deck.
Yeah.
Like honestly,
yeah,
like that's 6 cards you're putting in your deck, and you might even be playing ECL or Timely. So now we're at
Hmm.
9 or 9.5 cards, and that's your whole deck.
Yeah, then
Like
Hmm.
craving power has to
right,
go in decks
yeah,
like
it's like
that.
gotta
So
I
gotta draw those
remember
cards.
now
Like
you're at like a third or more of your
I
yeah.
was
deck, and it's
I was
Guard ECL is similar to that. Like
yeah,
that
yeah.
deck kind of had like in the weeks 4 and 5, I think had a really big. I
yeah,
don't
well,
know about last week, but 4 and 5, I know there was a lot of it.
I
And
played a lot
like
of
Um,
that deck. If you draw Vader on ECL turn, like on 6, the deck feels like you can beat anything. But then when you don't, you're like, okay, now I'm just playing all these awful
yeah.
cards.
yeah.
I lost to a Gar ECL at the PQ last weekend. I was playing Raid, Data Vaults. That's probably kind of tough
Mm.
anyway. But my opponent played like 5 Vaders over 2 games. I'm just
Hmm.
like, yep, that's card, and it
yep.
was just it was
You know
My
rough.
what's
big
better than
problem with
playing 5 Vaders over 2 games? Is 5 force throws over 2 games. Now that's
Yep, that's also pretty degenerate. So that's the meta. I think we've been aligned on the meta since like week 3 at this point. We know what's good, what's not good. So we'll see what happens with sectors. But I agree with you guys.
Before we move on,
Hmm.
because we're gonna go into like spoilers and then like talk about like set design stuff. I just want a small little secret tangent on sectors that are going in, because we learned for this very special sector we have in North America here, Philadelphia, we learned how I was told how it's going to be run, and that day one is sealed. That's what we expected. Day two starts with a draft. You play 3 rounds in your pod, and then you play up to 2 more outside your pod, and then you keep that deck and play it through top 8. You don't
No,
draft again.
the top
There's
eight's
no way that's
draft.
true.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what I heard. You played this. You
No,
played the same
if it's
deck.
the same,
You draft only one draft.
if it's the same format as what they're doing in Spain for their limited regional, it's a top 8 draft. So like you do redraft in top 8, but
I heard differently.
playing.
If that's,
I mean,
I
it's
don't
on
want
the
to panic
I
because
was crazy.
wild.
Yeah,
That's
I mean
true.
it's.
I think
it's
any
on
out
the-
of pod play,
Yeah,
just
any
any
out of pod play is
is
garbage.
crazy to me.
Yeah, that is
Insanity.
I
completely
believe
garbage.
we're still getting that. I believe I saw.
I
on
will
Subies.
I will just only complain for the whole tournament.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will complain from now until the end of time that playing outside of your pod in any draft event is garbage. That takes
Mhm.
away so much skill and so much like of the overall like
Mhm.
experience that it's just completely
You might as well
garbage.
just play another sealed pool that day. Like
Yeah.
I don't
It's
Well,
worse.
understand.
It's almost worse. Than
We'll
sealed
talk
'cause,
about
like,
more sealed stuff and like the actual format of Philly once we get closer to Philly because I think like I'm most likely gone to Philly like Tyler I'm sure is
going to
I don't know
Philly,
about
yeah.
everyone else but we'll
I'll
talk
be
about
both.
that later. So but let's move in. So let's quit set 5 for a minute. We're all kind of set 5'd out at this point, but let's move into set 6. So for the last few weeks now, we've been getting a handful of previews. They really started up, I think, the end of last week and to this week. And we've been seeing some pretty spicy cards. So, one thing that I have noticed personally is that the rares have been very good this time. Like I think in previous sets, like the rares have been awful. It's always just been like the uncommons being good and like everything
Give
else
and
is
take.
garbage. Yeah. Now it's like some of my favorite cards this set are rare, which is like unheard of. So my favorite cards, and there's a shit ton of restore too. I feel like
Mhm.
every other
Yeah,
card has
man.
restore, and it's
I got a tangent on that one. It's my
yeah.
I also, yeah.
So like me personally, my favorite cards so far have been the Chancellor Palpatine, a unit, the one that makes spies. Like he's really good. Plot is going to be insane. I think. Like
Mhm.
there's no way that keyword isn't just busted.
Mhm.
The Ahsoka from the precon seems like completely busted. My personal favorite card is Mon Mothma. Like
Yep.
I think that card is just wild. Like restore 3 and attack with all of your other units is just nuts. And then finally the card that we got today, today's Wednesday, so this will be yesterday, is Arenda Price. That card is also insane. Like
That's
and
my
Yep.
favorite card.
and Thrawn, like Thrawn is going to abuse the hell
I
out of that.
thought Arenda Price, when I initially read it, said when played, and I thought she was even more nuts than
Yeah,
initially.
right.
Oh, one blade.
Yeah, that'd be nuts
Yeah.
too. But there's one other card I think will have a huge impact, and that's Topple the Summit. Like the one that has plot and it deals 3 damage to each damage unit.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That card is going to be insane with Boba and also with Kira. Like
Yeah,
it's
Kira
basically
is-
just board wipes.
It's stupid.
Yeah, so plot's going to be insane. Like those are my personal favorite cards. Ian, I'll start with you for this one. Have there been any cards that just kind of catch your eye, or your thoughts on this set as a whole so far?
Yeah, I mean, as a smuggle enjoyer, I'm really excited about plot.
Yeah.
I think it also will just change the way that we play the game in a large way because flip turns already were very impactful, right? Like, oftentimes people talk about their deck in conjunction with how their flip of their leader works
Yeah.
and what their goal is, right? With so many different cards that you get to action cheat out while you're flipping your leader, there's going to be some crazy interactions that are going to come out with certain leaders that I think are going to be so unique and different to what we're currently doing in Star Wars Unlimited that we will kind of have to have a like reset on how we think about the leader deploy turns for different leaders. And it might not necessarily, like, I'm not sure that this is going to be true, but one of the things that I think plot is cool with, or the benefit of plot, right, is that you can play as many plot cards as you want as long as you have the resources to play them when you flip your leader. There might be incentives now to not flip on time, right? Like,
Yeah.
it was really rare for someone to flip their leader not on the turn that you could immediately flip it, right? Like Sabine pretty much always flips on 4 unless it would just die or something like that, right? You're an aggro deck, you want to get your damage in. Even like the 5 and 6 deploy leaders, like they often had to flip in order to gain tempo to stop their opponent from doing something. And now there might be a way that you might delay your flip in order to gain larger amounts of tempo because you're going to play 3 cards in one turn if you have 6 resources as opposed to 5. So like those type of interactions I think are really cool, and I think once we have the whole set and see all the different plot cards, could be like a really fun, unique change of pace in how the game will be played. I also think it might make the leaders that deploy later a little bit better, because now it's like,
I
okay, as
agree.
long as I survive to my 7 flip leader, like I know I'm getting it's kind of like what we were doing with Kylo at Galactics. It's like I flip my leader, I play 3 cards, I try to win the game. And now there's a bunch of decks that can do that, albeit you're doing it from your resource pile instead of from your discard pile. But you didn't pay, or you didn't have to play a card from your hand to do it. So it's like it's card advantage, it's action cheating. There's so much tempo involved with like this whole plot mechanic. I think it's going to be really cool and really fun, as long as there's not like one plot card that's so busted that you just always play that plot card.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
as
I hope
long
we
as
don't
they
have like
balance
another
it correctly,
blaster,
right?
situation where like every deck plays blaster. But like what I've liked so far, like about the plot cards, is like aside from the obvious common like draft chaff ones, is that like cards like Topple the Summit and like the Palpatine unit. I think maybe there's a few other cards that are like
Cad Bane's a
this.
big one.
Yeah, is that they're decent without plot. Like
Hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
Smuggle had like the downside of like all the cards were pretty mediocre if you didn't smuggle them. I mean, like Long Pike is probably like an exception. There's probably a few other exceptions, but for the most part, like the cards just weren't that good if you didn't smuggle them. And I feel like plot is kind of the opposite. Is that like the good plot cards are going to be playable for their
Yeah,
actual like mana
Right.
cost from hand
that's the
as
big
well as
question.
from
It's
Well,
not
from the
many will
resource,
be
right?
that
And a
way.
lot of that's because they all have when played effects, right?
Yeah.
Like most of them do,
but
right?
I have the devil's advocate of that in me for this specific situation for plot is it does it make things too simple, right? And that's what
Hmm.
I'm really worried about, because yes, you're right, you can play them man and there's like no downside, great, you can, but you can also just play them as a resource. And is that just going to be the right choice like 99% of the time? And are we removing some of the hardest choices that you have in a game because every card just, okay, this is definitely a card that I put down, right? Like I have this
Yeah.
block card and I have this non-block card. Okay, well, this one I get to draw automatically now when I play my leader. So let me put that down. Like we see
I
that
do
already.
almost wish that this set came out after Smuggle rotated
Yes,
out,
because
so that we didn't have both of them at the same
yes,
time, because now you
because
can just have such a mass quantity of plot and Smuggle cards
yeah,
that your resource decisions
and
are just so easy.
so simple.
Yeah.
And I hope, and I don't know if we're gonna get it, but we really need a hate card. And not a 2-3 crappy
Yeah,
card. We need a card that you would just play that says like, if you have a plot card, you're getting punished for it. Because if we don't, then there's not going to be any like counterplay. It's just going to be, in my
Yeah,
opinion, very
I
boring, and we're
I
lowering the
agree
skill
with you.
floor.
I mean, I know what's going to happen is if there is a hate card, people will riot on like the public, Discord. They rioted when Scanning Officer was spoiled. They're like,
hmm
"Oh man,
Just make scanning officer hit both.
yeah, like they made a set where one card counters it, and like it turns out that wasn't really the case at all. But like it's just going to be ultimate knee jerk reaction. But
even
anyways,
like
just to keep the uh, a conversation going. Tyler, your thoughts on these spoilers or the set as a whole? Anything catch your eye?
catch my eye? Yes. They foretold of the time when villainy aggro was a thing. It's been long, long time ago, and the fringes of it can be seen just from the few spoilers. I really hope that like any sort of aggressive villain deck can be played again. Like the new Dedra Miro leader, 2/5 has been great for Sabine on 4-flip. Plus upside could be good. The leaders or the normal side doesn't really do too well, but it is 2/5 on 4 could be very good.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
the problem with villain aggro is that there's no out of hand damage. Like that's always been like a big problem. There's no overwhelm, there's no out of hand damage. So like they usually have a hard time finishing, whereas Hero has a much easier job.
Well, you got Arinda Price, you got
Oh, Arinda
Classic
Price.
Devastator.
Yeah, I
we,
mean,
we keep it.
but like
There
she's
you
just
go.
like a worse K2, right? I mean, well, in the, like this conversation,
So,
but
I-
get CJ.
I do think with Daedra, a cool thing with her is she actually has the best keyword for an early deploy leader, which is raid
Raid
in red, because all the red untap effects are power based and they
Yeah,
all
power
let you
3 or
untap
less
everyone.
usually,
Like
yeah.
aggression with her is kind of busted, right? Like that's a lot of damage in that turn because you also get the draw card, which also might turn her on.
And you get to
Like,
play Tarkentown. Ooh.
yeah, and you get to play Tarkentown. Like
Yeah.
I think there is something there, but I do want to say the one thing that I'm really worried about, and I know we've talked about this kind of jokingly about banning Data Vault and all these high health bases. There's so much restore in this set, like just random restore, like high amounts. Like there's a leader that restores 4, right? Like there's just crazy amount of restore. You couple that with having like 33, 35 HP, man, like that's really boring.
Like every other
That's
blue
just really
card has
boring.
restore too. Like
Right.
like the
I
ship, like unit.
We
There's a
already
2
see it.
cost unit.
We
like-
already, honestly, that might be why, in my opinion, Han 2 is one of the best decks, is because it just has all this random restore. And
Yeah.
now you're just adding more of it to the broader based game. Like, I think that's just, to me, a lazy game design of like,
I
this
agree.
is my life link. We'll just throw it on all these random stuff. It's good. Like,
I
it's very
almost made a
boring.
joke of like, Blue, please do anything other than restore
Right.
earlier in Discord today. Like, especially Blue Hero, it's just restore, it feels like.
Yeah, that's its go-to.
Right.
Just restore.
And I'm like, I'm just kind of worried when I look at some of these cards. Like, I'm excited and I really am pumped for a lot of these cards, but there are a couple design principles here that I'm really worried about. Like, just the game already in itself, this, like, they don't want to design difficult to use cards, right? Or cards that express skill a lot, and there's adding more that kind of take that away, in my opinion. And I don't know. I'm getting worried.
Yeah.
I have a soft counterpoint to the restore argument where I agree with like the high health bases compounding with the restore being a problem, but they printed that article like right around when Django was at the height of its power, being like 2/4 is going to be the new normal. We kind of want to encourage unit combat. We kind of want to soup up unit health a little bit. And my fear with that was that like if units are sticking around longer, if they're harder to kill, it's going to be a lot easier to just like base rush and stick units and make your opponent deal with the problem. And restore is a nice counter to that in a small way. Now, I think the numbers are kind of a bit outrageous. Restore 4 is a lot. Restore 2 on a 2/3 is a lot. But like something like a Yaddle, I think is kind of perfect. Or like that new 2/4 with Disclose, which is kind of
The
nice, by
card's
the way.
busted, dude.
But like restore 1 on a 2/4 is a great balance of it lets you fight back for the board while healing some, but still allowing your opponent to make progress on the base. So I think that there's a tension there for sure. And while I definitely agree that the restore is probably too much right now that we're being seeing, I do like seeing a little bit of ways to stay in the game and to encourage that mid-range play. But this is all with the caveat that like will FFG stick to their word and print these like more aggressively statted units and stuff that'll stick around for the aggro decks as well.
But they haven't. They've given us 2
Exactly.
powers on turn 1. That's the issue. Like
Mhm.
it's not going that way. It's not like we have a 4 attack with downside on turn 1 yet. We have
Yeah.
no even 3/3s. We're still playing Battlefield Marine.
We have like some 4/1s, like the new Chopper and the Attuned Frynok, but unplayable in a world of Cad Bane and Gwynlyn.
right. Like
Yeah.
So
1 health is a huge liability.
Well, I'm just worried that like I mentioned earlier that my favorite card so far has been the 7 cost Mon Mothma, and like what I see kind of happening with her is you play her in like a Ray style deck with all these like moisture farmers, your 2/3
Yeah.
restore 2 things, and then like
Just
Right.
play her and
like
restore
all
15.
of the sudden like you play her on 7 and you full heal your base. Like
Imagine cheating her out with
that's
like a home 1 or
crazy.
something
Yeah,
and giving all
it's
obviously that's
just
like 10
so
resources or
insane,
whatever.
and
There,
it's
But
just
there's a new Ruthless Raider for Hero that gives everything restore 1.
mhm.
yeah, yeah. It's just I mean I don't know. There's this like I don't know if this critical mass of restore is going to be a big as issue as we're saying, but like
No.
I do agree with CJ that it is a little played out and like a little boring at this
It's
point.
boring.
Where
That
like
Yeah.
I don't
you
think it's
know
going to be the best deck or anything. I'm just saying
like
it to me
my
is very
Ray Data
boring.
Vault deck now can play 10
Yeah.
different restore units and like be totally happy with it, and it's just
Mhm.
it's I don't know. We'll have to see.
I do have a couple more set
Yeah, good.
6
Mhm.
points if that's cool.
Yeah.
One, disclose as a mechanic I am scared of until set 1 through 3 rotates because holding cards in hand right now is really difficult. And disclose makes you really want to hold cards in hand. And so I guess with like Kiadi, but Kiadi already informs a lot of your deck building. And so if these disclosed cards are kind of forcing you to, we don't know what all the disclosed cards do, obviously, but if they are forcing you to inform your deck building, then that gets tricky with that. And for in a world of force throw, disclose seems a little tricky, and I don't think force throw is going anywhere unless they ban it.
Yeah,
Um,
like just as like a counterpoint to that real quick is that I think they can kind of knock disclose out of the park if they give us like I guess multicolored cards is the best way to put this.
yes,
Like say they
yes.
give us like a green red hero card. Like things like
Um,
that could really kind of
they
make
said
disclose
there's an
pop off.
article that released that had like the spoil, like not spoilers, but like little
Yeah,
teasers and
yeah.
hints.
Yeah.
And one of them was that like there's a leader with no hero or villainy aspect, and almost certainly that's going to be
It's probably
multicolored.
like a red green or
Yep.
something like that. Yeah.
And so I imagine that's coming this set. I've been expecting it
Yeah, that'd be
for
cool.
some amount of time, but and then the other thing is my favorite cards coming up, or at least my favorite style. I really like the new Padme leader. Now, in a world of
Mhm.
Quinlan, I don't know if I'll be playing her, but I have been starving in this game for ways to self discard. So like we've had R2 unit, we've had favorable delegate a little bit, and now we have like Kylo leader, but just consistent ways to self discard. So we have that new Bail Organa, Chopper kind of does it, the
Yeah.
furtive handmaiden or whatever. Like just ways to cycle through your deck and get discards. And in that same spoiler article, there was a card where part of the spoiled text was this card can't be played from your hand, and almost certainly it's going to be some madness style effect where you like discard
Yeah.
it and play it, or
And then play it something like that. Yeah.
and I love that style of card and
Yeah.
that style of play.
I know. I mean that'd be sick. So we'll segue that into a viewer question, which is about the game or set complexity as a whole. Like, do we think it's too basic? Do you think that they're too safe with their, card design? Like even in fact, like the banned cards, they don't do anything combo-y to like really break the game. They're just really good cards and probably overtuned. Um, but I mean, I'll start. Me personally, I think that this game probably is a little bit too basic right now. Like we're on the end of year 2. Like we're going into set 6. That's 2 full years of this game, and there's still no dedicated combo deck. There's still no like 2-3 card. Like I'm gonna do this and then do that, and then you can't stop me. Kind of deal. I feel like I was joking before the stream that Magic has to ban like 6 cards every set, but like they're not scared to push the envelope, right? Star Wars, I feel like they're so scared to like push that envelope like into doing really broken things. I have hopes that plot can be that. Like maybe like you can combo 2 or 3 plot cards because you play them all at the same time to do something cool. So I have hopes for that, but I'm not sure. Tyler, I'll start with you for this. Do you think that the game's too basic right now? Do you wish they do something a little bit more crazy? What are your thoughts?
Whatever you do, someone's going to complain. There's going to be complaints in both sides because as someone that still keeps up with Magic community, there's a lot of people complaining right now about VV. There's a lot of people complaining, a lot of sides on both aspects. And so I would like not necessarily for it to just be like pushing the envelope like Magic does and just keep going crazy. I just would like that not they in the old article that Bobby Sapphire Mike made a whole video on when they discussed the set design for, I think it was like year one, like the first three sets, and they talked a lot about over tuning and nerfing everything, and that was the idea where there was nerfing everything. Like that's Boba slipped through because they thought it wasn't that good or something, yada yada yada. But it shouldn't just be nerf everything until it's a minimum baseline of like 1 power, because then the whatever card at baseline 2 power is now insane, and then we can't do anything about it. It should just be a, stronger to an extent, but you don't have to be like, all right, let's have everything be the craziest thing we've ever seen.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. It's just I don't want to be really excited when like one of the best cards in set 5 is a 2/5 vanilla on turn 1. Right. Like that shouldn't happen. Like I should be more excited. CJ, what do you think?
Yeah, I think for me, I do think it's a little bit too vanilla. It's a little bit too boring, and I actually think the problem they have is the way they're approaching design is way too thematic. And what I mean by that is like this set is the smuggle set. You'll never see it again. This set is the bounty set. You'll never see it again. This set is the Jedi set. You'll never see this again.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's fun for like the limited environment that no one's going to play unless there's a big event. But what about like a new set comes out? Let's put a random bounty so we can go back to our boss deck and maybe that's cool. Let's put in a random smuggle card that, okay, now we can look at maybe some of the like Lando or some other decks that maybe this is the card it needed, right? Like reawaken some of those old archetypes. But it just feels like the cards they keep reprinting is Restore, Raid, Shielded, Sentinel, like just very basic ambush, just so boring. It is boring.
Yeah.
Like
now,
like
the
most exciting cards even from last set is like what, a 4/3 ambusher,
right?
Okay,
yeah.
like
to be clear, I like the game. Like I'm not saying I like the game and the game's boring. The game mechanics are what make it fun. It's just that like the card design we're saying is too safe. It's too boring. Like they need to push the envelope.
Just push the envelope.
Yeah.
Like it's not like just do something to make, like there are so many leaders that we can't even play.
Yeah.
At all, because you just like forgot about them and like moved past it. Like
they're just like, here's this character. It probably makes 10 people in the whole world happy.
It's like,
and like no.
I think the best example is Exploit. I think they were just really scared of Exploit. Like I think they were just so scared that it was going to be powerful that like even their best card that was supposed to be their best Exploit card that they gave away as like the store showdown card, whatever, the big monster guy, they made it terrible.
Well, I think set 3 as a whole is just garbage, but like
no, I know, but I'm just like I just feel like they have cool ideas, but they're just afraid to just let it loose.
Yeah, totally agree.
Exploit in general, I think is the best point to say because
coordinate
just let
too.
those cards be good.
Yeah.
Coordinate. I think there was a couple that were good with coordinate. We had, but we definitely could have pushed it a little bit farther. Like Plo Koon was awesome,
just
of
like
course, but
like as a whole, like they force you to play 3/2, vanilla with coordinate just to like.
Yeah, here's a version of a worse card we've already printed.
Right.
Have coordinate to make it average,
right.
as opposed to here's an
don't
average
make me
card.
Play bad cards to force like your set mechanic to be playable. So
I feel like I'll be a little contrarian here. I feel like since set 4 really, they've kind of gone away from that. Like I think that they realized in the first year, the last 2 sets of year 1 were on the weaker side, more mundane, and that when they added a keyword, they had to like nerf the card to make it so that you got this special thing like coordinate or exploit or whatever. I think that when you look at cards in this set with like disclose, for example, and we kind of touched upon it with plot, like it doesn't seem like it's like, oh, this effect is worth 2 resources, so this card is like has to have two resources downward on the scale worth of stats in order to go with it. Like especially the disclosed cards, because like sometimes you're just not going to get that effect off and you still want to be able to play that unit or whatever. But with that being said, I do think that there is also some more unique and I guess more complicated interactions that they're trying to go about. Like I think specifically I mean, this isn't like a complicated interaction, but it will lead to things that are similar to a combo or ways for you to gain value in the game that you couldn't really before. It's Not Over Yet is an event that's red, costs 2, and you can ready a unit that didn't attack or enter play that phase, and then you make a spy token. But I think like that type of card is just like asking you to play cards that are like units that have tap do something
Do
effects,
something, yeah.
right? And those type of cards never really got to shine in this game because unlike games like Magic where you can't attack units directly, you can attack units directly in this game,
Yeah,
right? So
like
when
if someone wants an example of something like Ian's talking about, it's like take like the set 3 like Senator cycle, like those like
right,
1 and 2 cost officials that were like pay
Mhm.
1, tap it, do something. So
yeah, so like those type of effects, maybe there's going to be a deck where like you can try to get that effect off multiple times.
yeah.
And like that kind of increases the complexity of like at least a strategy that you're trying to develop. Um, that being said, when they just print cards that are like this unit has hidden and ambush or whatever, like yeah, that's kind of like a pretty vanilla. I think in Magic terms, we always called it French vanilla, where it's like it's a card with stats and it has a keyword or two.
Yeah.
Like you need some of those, mostly for limited. But when you're printing cards that you want to be played in your premier format, you do need to have a little bit more complexity. So I definitely agree with you guys on that
Yeah,
aspect.
it's just like a bunch of what was that card? Rock's Warmonk. Remember that? It's like here's a 4/4 for 3,
Yeah.
and it has like trample or lifelink
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah, it had lifelink and something else because it was like a band tricolor
Yeah,
card.
it was a band
Yeah.
tricolor, but like that's like
Yeah.
you're right.
I think
That's
I had
like that's their
vigilance.
spicy card.
Yeah.
It's like,
Mhm.
oh,
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that the leaders are going to push the boundary. Like, I feel like that is usually where a lot of people kind of form their strategy of like how they want to play. Like,
Yeah.
they don't
No.
necessarily be like, oh, I really like this Cad Bane unit. I'm going to play a deck that utilizes him the best.
That
It's like,
that
no,
would be
I want to
the
play this leader the best way
right.
possible.
That would
So,
be the most
if,
obvious spot to really push like
yeah,
the power levels. And I know they failed in the past with things like Boba, but like if you do it across the board or with like 4 or 5 leaders, then it's not as apparent as like here's one leader who's miles better
Mhm.
than everything else. I don't know. Mickey,
It's
do you have
really
any thoughts
evident.
on the set?
You go first, Tyler, but yeah, I got
It's really evident that when we don't have good leaders, those colors just don't get played.
yeah,
Mhm.
When Boba and Django got banned, that was
Where's
it.
Yellow
Yellow
Villain? Yeah.
villainy gone. It just into distant past. We'll never see it again until we get something that plays it again. Every leader in this game should just be playable. Like there could be but some that are better in different situations, and that should be fine. They should just be playable.
I do think we've started to get a trickle down of like whether they're good or not, like interesting leaders that encourage build around. I think Kazuda is a really interesting build around leader. There's a lot of different ways you can take that.
Yeah.
I think Poe Dameron, the pilot, I think that's a really interesting leader. There's a lot of interesting ways to Kylo, the new Kylo is a great example of this. They're like pushing the game in different ways versus like as good as Talzin, like she's obviously just a good unit and a good leader and she does a thing and it's just kind of a little boring. It just uses the force. I think Obi-Wan's kind of the same way. So like that's why I have hopes for some of the other spoilers and teasers. They said like they have the multicolor leader that's most likely multicolor.
And
It's
there's
not
an
hero or
alt win
villain.
condition finally. So
An alt win
that's something
condition,
else. Yeah.
which is probably going to be trash. Those are either trash or broken. So
Exactly.
hoping for the first one, but it'll be fun to try and play it. But there's also a leader that's going to be able to be deployed multiple times, like Trench.
Yeah, it's a green one, I think they said. Yeah.
Yeah, in green and for the plot cards. I do think there's like a line you got to toe a little bit because I also agree we need more powerful cards. I think the power creep, which has this negative connotation, it's honestly it's not a bad thing to have more powerful cards. Like a set releases, you want to try the new set, they have to be at least as good as the cards you were just playing, if not better. You need a reason to play the cards. Let's have them be more powerful. But I think
Yep.
part
Just real
of
quick, Mickey. The thing is though is like power creep can't just be like we have 2 4s instead of 2 3s now.
no, yeah,
but and that's how they're doing it.
it needs to be
Right.
interesting
That's
power
what
creep. It needs to be like a 2
Yeah.
3 that does something cool as opposed to like another stat, because stats are boring. Like ambushes, all the French vanilla, the evergreen keywords are kind of boring. I do think though that I want a viable sort of combo deck and I want to appease to that kind of player. But part of the beauty in this game for me is like how interactive and back and forth it is. And so if there was a combo, I'd want it to be set up in a way where it's like your opponent gets to interact up to the point of it happening, and then it's like a 1-2 finish, right?
Yeah.
I think
Because
Kylo Leader is like the best definition of that.
It
exactly.
is the currently only combo deck in the game. It is.
It's less of a
very
combo
guide
though,
efficient.
because you're just
Right.
playing your leader.
Yeah.
It's more
Yeah.
of a 1-turn kill or 2-turn
Oh,
kill.
I get
Yeah,
it's a
but the
combo.
setup
It's a
of
combo
it-
because you're setting it up, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
putting
sure.
You're
things in your
spending the
graveyard
entire
whole
game building up to the one thing, and then you're doing the
Yeah.
one thing, and it's
Like-
on your opponent that if they prepared to deal with it.
Yeah.
There's those insane Sand Hill combos you can do with Admiral Trench unit,
Yeah,
and like
Yeah, that's
it
true.
exists,
There is a
but it's
combo.
not viable. Like it's 12 resources or whatever. It requires so many actions. It requires your opponent to be literally dead on the table and doing nothing to stop you. And so like there's pieces there, and I think they toyed with it a little bit, but notably that happened in the set where they pulled everything back. That was the exploit
Yeah, right.
coordinate Twilight of the Republic set where everything was nerfed, and I wonder if that's part of it. But I want there to be power, but I don't want them to like go too far and take away from what makes the game fun. I never played Destiny, but from what I've heard is when action cheating entered the game was kind of when it
Yeah, that's when it
got out of
started to get
hand.
kind of crazy. Yeah.
And
Well,
so like
That's also
Yeah.
what it was. It's at its most fun though. But
right.
but I will say, like, I think a big issue right now, and I think we've all touched on it. We're just playing a stats game. It feels like a lot of the
Mhm.
time. Like even a lot of the deck threads right now, and I can see this in the Han one all the time. People just want to write up what's the best turn one play, and that really is just like what lines up the best against the other stats that the other deck's playing. You
Mhm.
know,
Yeah, I mean,
like
Wu
that's kind of
made an
boring.
entire
We've been
video
doing that since set
on,
one.
Yeah.
on like the turn one
Spoiler:
problem.
the answer
Right.
is most likely Grogu.
Yeah.
Ogdo actually
Yeah,
is the best.
Yeah.
there's just so
It's the
many different
most,
things.
but
Well,
yeah,
I mean,
it's-
anyway, I hope that 1 month from now or 2 months from now, when we're talking about this set as a bigger whole, that we're not saying that the best card in the set is a 2-cost 2/4 with restore 1 and freaking disclose. So because that probably is the best card right now.
Yeah.
So I mean, I hope that there's
I
things
don't know,
that
man.
they
I
stand
think
for.
that Naboo Royal Starship is like
that
pretty
one's
good.
good too. Yeah, the
Giving
4
leaders
costing.
overwhelm is something that
Yeah.
you
And
can't
has
do
plot.
very
It
easily,
has
no.
plot.
and you get to
Yeah.
do it with one action when you deploy your leader.
price is kind of nasty though. I don't know. Like
Price is
we
good.
have to
Mhm.
find out
Yeah,
how to break
Meridian
it. But,
Price is
like,
really good.
I'm just
Or-
glad that we're this hyped for this set
Yeah.
after 20
Oh, yeah.
cards, 30 cards. Like, it's
My
not been
only
like that.
fear is that like we're getting super hyped for Flot and disclose and stuff like that, and these cards come out, and the best thing to be doing is still 3x force throw,
Like, yeah,
3x
right.
Mundi,
And
oh, it
3x
will
throw.
be. I think.
like,
sadly.
Yeah.
like also maybe there is a fear there that like we've already seen the best plot and
Yeah,
disclosed
it's like-
cards, right? I
Yes,
mean,
yeah.
that's also the thing because like they showed Blaster very early in set 2
Mhm.
previews, and
It was
and-
like the
yeah,
first bat.
and we were like, oh man, Smuggle's awesome. Here's a sweet card. I can't wait. And then like everything else was just trash.
Mhm.
So-
Cassian came later, but
Yeah,
Cassian's
yeah,
good.
Cassian. I think I previewed Cassian actually. Yeah. So I mean, it's
Hell yeah.
and that was later. So we're at 1 hour and 3 minutes. I'll probably trim a little bit in editing, but that's the end. And CJ, I think this is your third
triple crown.
Triple crown,
Oh,
third
we did it.
victory.
We did it.
Congrats. What do you
Oh.
have to say in your time to shine here?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I want to say is I'm really excited for this next set, and I know I brought out here, and I know a lot of people come in the comments and they talk about how negative we are. We're just providing feedback. We're discussing how we feel. I know we don't have a solution to it right now, but we are all still very hyped about this game, very pumped about it. We love it, and I am really excited to see where it goes. And I really hope that FFG really, really leans in, stops putting ridiculous caps on these events for no reason, and just lets the community grow, and we get as many people to go and have as much time to schedule to get to these events as possible.
Perfect. Yeah. And that's a whole nother topic for some other day. But like this whole fiasco with like sectors and regionals right now with registration being the real end boss is crazy. So that's going to be it for episode 12. We will see you next week for episode 13.
See ya.